How can we prevent bias when working with AI? AI-powered education is next. Hi, Casey and I are here today because we have some really valuable information to share with you, as always. But we were just at a conference and went to several AI presentations, and we actually were able to present at this conference ourselves, and we had a blast. Just a great time. And welcome to all those new followers out there, by the way. So thanks for joining us. And just to know, we talk so often here about making sure that we are using AI to best fit the needs of our learners. And that means all our learners. So today we felt we would focus on how can we work hard to keep that bias out of our AI and to make sure that we, kind of make sure it's all voices are heard with care and empathy. And it all really goes back to us because we're the ones that are feeding the prompts into whatever AI tool it is, or if it's in chat or Claude or whoever it might be, whatever it might be. We are definitely the ones that need to be prepared and thinking about bias. So how can we get prepared for that, Casey? How can we be thinking and set it up so that not only are we crafting great prompts, and we've talked about that, but how do we really make sure that that bias is not in there and all voices are heard? How do we start that process?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that this conversation is one that you and I have had for a while. It started when we were reading The Alignment Problem. We were met with this idea of fairness, and we were talking about how do we make sure that we're using AI system fairly, and that's about representation. So we attended a session at the conference we were just at, and we had this really great presenter, John Fila. We'll mention his credentials in the notes here, the comment section, and also maybe we'll show you his website on here as well. But anyway, we attended a session there, and he mentioned a few resources that sort of were like, oh, of course. Why wouldn't we include those in our prompts and in the way that we utilize AI for content creation, right? Like, why wouldn't we do that? So one of them, and I think we'll pull up the website here, is the Universal Design for Learning Guidelines. When you think about those things, there's the most basic components of it, right? The why of learning, the what of learning, and the how of learning. And when we remind ourselves of those things, we are inherently thinking about our learners. We are processing the way our brains work, the way that we best understand material. We're not just accepting what the system is spitting out for us to give to our students, right? Like, give me a lesson on such and such topic and then go copy paste. Great, thank you. I got my lesson for the day. While it does that, we always come back to our same idea: be the human in the loop. Be the human who's making the decision about what will work best for your learners. So that means you think about the why are we doing this, right? Why is this benefiting them and how is it benefiting them? And then what part of this process is going to get them to the next stage? What do I need to provide for them? And so this naturally then goes, well, when I say them, who am I talking about? Talking about all of my learners, right? So Sandro, you and I both have some resources that are really great, and I think you're going to show them in here, and I can also link them as well. But do you want to kind of touch base on some other ways that specifically people can start thinking about how maybe Universal Design is working in their AI prompting?
Yes, absolutely. So if you think about you might just think in a general way about your class, the whole class. All right. This is what the whole class needs. But you also need to put that lens on that's a little bit different. And it looks also at any special groups that might be in your class that have special things that maybe they're multilingual learners. Maybe they have different reading levels. Maybe they're really wanting challenges all the time, right? So you have to think about those people and start thinking like So how would I design whole class? And then how do I design for those groups? And then are there any individuals that really need some personalization? And that, of course, is where we say AI can be a wonderful tutor and all that, which we've talked about before. But we need to make sure we are really thinking about all those people. And if we don't put that lens on, then we're just feeding the same material into the AI tool all the time. And it's just spitting back what it thinks we basically, well, not what we, it's whatever we give it. It's kind of like going with it and affirming and giving that same material back to us. And it's creating our own echo chamber that is not healthy for all of the members of our class. So putting that lens on and talking about, the different characteristics of those learners. And so in this, you can see the visual here. It's going to talk about ability and disability characteristics. So making sure that you have, thinking about people with vision issues. How would you put that together in a prompt as you're, writing whatever lesson it might be about? What, are there students that struggle with vision or hearing or mobility? Here are some examples of, consider putting this inside of your prompt. And then all of a sudden, now you've expanded it and the AI is searching for all its data. And like John talked about in his presentation, the data is out there. We're just not asking for it.
Exactly.
Not asking for it. And so starting to put those things in there and just thinking about, and I'll let you talk about this, Casey, like not only this, but whose voices are missing when it comes to like demographic characteristics.
Yeah. So another thing that John provided us with was this frame of reference to say, okay, I understand that I have a perspective where I'm inclusive, right? I'm an educator who prides myself on the ability to look at my room and really assess who's there. I do a demographic survey. I understand who's in my room, not just because of what they look like, but how they identify themselves. That's so incredibly important. But yet, do I use that information to inform how I create my lessons? That's different. Now I think about what can I ask AI to do to make sure my lessons consider these individuals, right? Because I'm thinking about them, but I'm really not taking action on that. And so the resource that you should see on your screen here is about a category that we might use to identify students, which obviously this is limited to. I mean, we might categorize students in a lot of different ways, but these are some of our really standard characteristics. When you think about, are we representing Indigenous peoples in our rooms? And even if they're not in the room itself, are we considering the population of people so that the learners in our room understand and represent them in their own work? So you can think about the characteristics of how we might identify these groups of people. And again, self-identification is really huge. If we can rely on how people might identify themselves, then we can use that. And then the prompt considerations, right? Here's an example of what you might do. Let's say you've already started, you have a lesson, you've created it, and you go to ChatGPT and you're thinking, I would like to make sure that I've considered all of my learners here. You can ask it generally, and it will give you an answer. Or you can give it a prompt and say, consider these individuals. And keep going after it. Like, this is a part of you being the human who's interacting with the AI to get the result that will be best for your learners.
Yeah. So you're really, again, really refining and thinking about, you might go through this process and put all these prompts in there, and then you can still push it and ask, what am I missing? What voices are not being heard?
Yeah.
Have I missed any marginalized people? And then think about the best, again, way to deliver this, because it's not only maybe just creating the lesson, the objective, the plan, but it could be like, are there storytelling components in it? Because storytelling is so important, to many cultures and that, and so forth. So we can go on and on about that. But again, if we don't feed it that information, it's not going to search for it. And that is the value of the human. And so we have no one else to be frustrated with. It's not the AI who's spewing back simple information. It's all about us making sure that we're in the loop, giving those important prompts. And then there's nothing wrong with taking a lesson that you think you have designed that is just the best. And it's like really all these voices are there and all this, and you can ask AI to see if there's bias in it. Are all the voices represented? Who is not being represented in that work? And then also, is there care and empathy built into that lesson? Because sometimes as educators, we just really get focused on what we're going to do and go after it. But there is that important element that especially our learners today really need to have that care and empathy built into a lesson. So,
well, it's also a great thing, a great teaching opportunity for your students. You know, this is a thing that I can see myself. I'm already, my wheels are turning, thinking like, what if I showed my students this? What if I actually put up a lesson that we've done in class, this year, and I say, let's ask, ChatGPT to consider what I've missed, or maybe I started by asking the students, like, what do you think I missed? Who have we missed? Who have we not talked about? Why have we excluded them from this conversation? Was it purposeful or was this unintentional? And how do you think that affects, our understanding of anyone, and go from there. And then let's see what ChatGPT says, and then maybe even give it some prompt considerations based on what the student said. I think we missed them. I think this is important. And oh man, what fun conversations could you have? And you're saying, I'm the person that still is learning this too. We're in it together.
Yeah. And think about how powerful that is. It goes right back to the why. Like, why are we doing this? Why is this important? And then having the learners be part of that process to constantly be putting on that lens themselves, their own pair of glasses to take a look at bias and
absolutely,
leaving out those voices and really building the best that there can be for our learners. So that's how you can bias proof your AI. At least it's a wonderful starting point. So thank you.
Thank you.